Hello and welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today by asking you to locate a very specific feeling, a quiet one.
Okay.
Just think about your last week. Maybe you were navigating a project at work where the goals were never quite defined. Or, dealing with some city service where the instructions just didn't make sense.
That moment where the logic is just
Yeah,
gone, where you look around for the person in charge and realize, oh, there isn't one.
exactly. But here's the hook for today, and this is what's so interesting. You didn't stop. You didn't just throw your hands up.
No, you kept going.
You made it work. You absorbed that confusion, you came up with a fix on the fly, and you kept things moving. And we see that as like a personal win, right? I handled it.
We do. But today, we're going to suggest that your ability to handle it might be part of a much larger structural pattern.
We're exploring the idea that your own adaptability is maybe the fuel that keeps a silent system running. So today we're diving into a really fascinating and I think pretty illuminating concept called JPN-2. And to look at it, we're using a specific framework from our source stack. It's called Many Fields-Based LMOS.
Which sounds incredibly technical.
It really does. It sounds like we're building a computer, but it's actually a minimal operating system for looking at social structures.
And the question at the heart of JPN-2 is just hauntingly simple.
It is. When governance is not spoken, what does everyday life absorb?
It's a huge shift in perspective.
Yeah.
Usually when things feel directionless, we look up, we look at leadership, at government, we ask, why aren't they saying anything?
Right.
This model asks us to look down at ourselves. It asks what physically happens to us at the bottom when the top goes silent.
And I want to set the ground rules right away because this mini fields framework is very strict.
Yep.
We are not doing politics today.
No politics. The number one rule of the LOS is structure over impression. We're not here to say if something is good or bad or lazy.
No moral judgments.
None. We're just looking at the mechanics, the social physics of it all. Pressure, gradients, friction.
So if you're tuning in hoping for a political rant, this isn't it. Our goal is purely observational. So let's start with that first piece, the observation.
The observation is the entry point. It's what the source points to as this strange modern phenomenon. We have these huge vacuums of clear direction. Responsibilities are vague. Big decisions are just missing.
And yet society doesn't collapse.
Right, which is totally counterintuitive. If the pilot just walks out of the cockpit, the plane should dive.
The music should stop.
But it doesn't. The trains still run, emails get answered. Life. It continues. The source has a name for this.
What's that?
A non-ideal stable solution.
Non-ideal stable solution. That sounds like something an engineer would say for, it's held together with duct tape, but hey, it's holding.
It's a bit deeper than duct tape, actually. Duct tape is a fix you can see. This is deceptive because it looks calm on the surface. But that stability isn't coming from the system.
It's coming from us.
It's coming from life, from the everyday person. The key insight here is that the silence of governance isn't just an empty space. It's a vacuum, and it actively pulls your energy in to fill it.
That makes me think of like the auto adjust on a camera. You're in a dark room, so the governance, the lighting is missing. What does the camera do?
It compensates.
It cranks up the ISO, right?
No.
It introduces all this noise and grain. The sensor works overtime just to produce an image.
That is a perfect analogy for what the source calls the Life OS, your personal operating system. When the external rules go away, your internal processor just revs up to fill the gap.
You don't wait for instructions. You just figure it out because you have to.
You have to get through the day. And because we are so good at it, the friction never really surfaces. The person in charge doesn't see a problem because, well, the report still got done.
They don't see that I had to basically reinvent the entire process 3 times just to make it happen.
Exactly. The silence is maintained because we create the workaround. It's a survival instinct that ends up masking the systemic issue.
Wow. So we're essentially subsidizing the dysfunction just by being competent.
That's one way to look at it.
That's heavy. And it leads us right into our second segment, which is the real technical core here, the structure. How is the system actually built?
This is where we get into that term you mentioned.
Recursive offloading.
Yes. JPN-2 identifies this core asymmetry. You have governance, which becomes a subject that does not speak. It just refuses to provide a narrative.
So they stop telling us why.
They stop telling us the why, the how,
Yeah.
sometimes even the what. And on the other side of that equation, you have everyday life, which becomes the absorbing subject.
And that's the offloading part.
That's the recursive offloading. It's more insidious than just giving you a task. It means the very act of explaining reality is pushed down onto you.
So it's not just that the road is closed, it's that they don't tell me why it's closed or for how long, so now I have to invent a story in my head to deal with the traffic jam.
Yes, you have to rationalize the chaos yourself. The system depends on you to fill in the blanks so it doesn't have to. You become the narrator for a story you didn't even write.
And the Minifields LMOS tool it helps visualize this with layers, right? The N, I, and OS layers.
It does. Think of it like a stack. At the very top, you have the N layer for narrative. This is the big story. We are doing X because we believe in Y.
We're building a new park to improve community health. Simple, clear.
Right. But in the JPN-2 model, that N layer is silent. It's just flatlined, no story.
Okay, then below that is the I layer.
The internal or value layer. This is where you find the unspoken drivers. Maybe it's fear of accountability. Maybe it's just bureaucratic inertia. It's a hidden reason for the silence.
And at the bottom.
The OS layer, the operational system. This is the actual machinery, the bureaucracy, the logistics, the servers. And the wild thing is, the OS layer keeps running even when the narrative layer is dead.
The machine keeps humming along, but there's no driver.
Or, more accurately, the machine hums along because all the passengers are leaning out the windows, pushing it forward with their own hands.
And this is where that structure over impression rule is so important. We're not saying it's a conspiracy.
No, absolutely not. It's likely not malicious at all. It's just structural. It's physics. If you create a void on one side, the pressure from the other side has to rush in to equalize it.
But that rush, that filling, it has to come from somewhere. If I'm doing all this absorbing and adjusting, it's costing me something. I'm not an infinite resource.
You are definitely not infinite. And that brings us to segment 3, the cost. This is where it gets very personal.
The source uses a term that I think will resonate with everyone. Judgment capacity.
Yes, you are paying in disposable energy and judgment capacity. Think of your brain like a phone battery. You wake up with 100%.
Yeah, okay.
In a healthy system, maybe you spend 20% navigating society's rules and 80% on your actual life, your job, your family, your passions.
But in this silent system.
In a JPN-2 system, you might burn 60% of that battery just interpreting the silence.
Yeah.
What did that vague email actually mean? Is this rule still a thing? Why is this form so confusing?
You're burning all your cognitive fuel just getting to the starting line.
And that frustration.
Yeah.
The source says it doesn't turn into protests. It does something else. It calls it sedimentation.
Sedimentation, I love that word. It's so heavy, like silt at the bottom of a river.
It is heavy. Because what are you going to protest? I'm upset about the general ambiguity. There's no clear target to get angry at.
Right.
So instead of exploding outward, that dissatisfaction just settles downward.
Yeah.
Inside you becomes resignation. Self-adjustment.
It's that sigh, that heavy sigh when you see another confusing headline and you just scroll past it. You don't fight it, you just absorb it.
And its eye is expensive.
Yeah.
That is the sound of your mental bandwidth eroding. The source argues that failures of governance aren't fixed in this system. They're just experienced as personal fatigue.
Wow. So the system's failure is metabolized as my own tiredness. I think I'm just burned out or need more sleep, but actually I'm processing the structural gaps in my society.
You are internalizing the gap. You're using your own body's energy to build a bridge over the chasm between a confusing system and your need for a coherent reality.
The LMOS framework talks about shear, right? Like tectonic plates.
Yes, shear. It's all about speed difference. Imagine the governance OS plate is moving at a crawl. It's slow, indecisive, silent.
But the reality speed plate, my daily life, technology, the economy, is moving at 100 miles an hour.
And you are living right on that fault line. You are the friction point. The difference in speed generates heat, and you, the individual, have to absorb all that heat. That's the stress. That's the burnout.
So it's the invisible wear and tear. If your car's alignment is off, the tires wear out unevenly. We're the tires.
Which leads to the critical question, how long can the tire last?
This is segment 4, the tipping point. Because our life OS, our ability to adapt, it's incredible. But it's not infinite.
The LMOS asks us to look at membrane tension. Think of society as a thin film. How much pressure can it take before it tears?
And here we're looking at emotion as gradient.
Yes.
Yes.
This is so important in the framework. Emotion isn't just a feeling, it's data. It represents potential energy. So even if people aren't in the streets, if the frustration is high, the gradient, the pressure slope is getting steeper and steeper.
There's also this idea of a compatibility gradient. What's that about?
It's that our life OS is constantly upgrading. We're learning new apps, new skills, new ways to cope. We're adaptive. But the governance OS is static. It's not upgrading.
So eventually they just become incompatible, like trying to run brand new software on a 20-year-old computer.
It doesn't just run slow. It crashes. It freezes.
Yeah.
And JPN-2 asks a really dark question at this point.
Which is,
When does our virtue of adaptability flip over and become irreversible damage?
that's the scary part. We take so much pride in being resilient. We'll make it work. We wear it like a badge. But this suggests that our resilience is actually enabling the dysfunction to continue.
It's the gap the LMOS tells us to find, the gap between intent and phenomenon. The system operates as if human energy is infinite. But it's finite. We run out.
And we don't see it coming. We just feel heavy. We feel that sediment rising.
That's the real danger of a silent system. Because there's no clear enemy, there's no release valve, just a slow, quiet accumulation of pressure.
So, what happens when it stops? When the tire finally blows, what does that even look like?
That's the question the source leaves us with.
It feels like a dam, but instead of holding back water, it's holding back this thick, heavy mud.
And the dam is made of our collective patience.
Okay, let's try to summarize this, because JPN-2 it's a lot to take in.
It is. So, to recap, we're observing a structure where governance creates a silence, a vacuum of narrative and direction.
And instead of everything grinding to a halt, our everyday life steps in. We become the absorbing subject. We use our own life OS to process all the chaos.
And there's a cost. We pay with our disposable energy, with our judgment capacity. The shear between the slow system and our fast reality burns us out.
It's not really a political crisis, then. It's a human energy crisis.
A structural asymmetry. The load is unbalanced.
It really changes how you think about your own fatigue. I mean, sometimes I think, why am I so exhausted? I didn't even do that much today.
Well, maybe you did. Maybe you were doing the invisible work of the system.
I was being the shock absorber.
You were processing the silence.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of work.
Before we go, the source material leaves us with one final provocative question, and I want to leave it with you, the listener, to really think about.
The question is this. When the life OS finally loses its ability to absorb this silence, what is the first thing that will become visible?
Oof, that gives me chills.
Think about it. If our constant hard work is patching over the silence, what happens when we stop? The silence itself becomes visible. The cracks finally show.
What does that look like? Does everyone just stop trying? Apathy?
Does it look like chaos? Or does something new start to grow from the bottom up?
Yeah.
If the top refuses to speak, maybe the bottom starts speaking an entirely new language.
It makes you wonder what's actually holding the whole thing up.
And what happens if we all just put our hands down?
That is something to think about. As you go about your week, try to use this mini-fields observation mode. Don't look for the loud arguments.
Right.
Look for the silence.
Yep, look for those moments where you have to auto-adjust, where you find yourself explaining the system to yourself because no one else would.
And just observe your own energy. Are you tired because of what you did or because of what you had to absorb?
It's a powerful shift in perspective.
It really is. Thank you for walking us through the architecture of silence.
My pleasure. It's always fascinating to see the schematics.
And thank you to everyone for listening. Protect your energy, and we will see you on the next deep dive.